Lauren Ray,
Hello.
welcome to Between Two Beers.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We are very excited to have you on the show and very humbled. The first guest that's flown to New Zealand for the primary purpose of being on Between Two Beers.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm stoked to be here.
Thanks to Jetstar for getting you on time-ish.
Yeah, we got here. Slight delay. I was a little bit concerned, but got here in the end.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do minor inconveniences like that hit differently now?
Yes, I like my life to be I like to be in very much control of my day-to-day life, especially after, I guess, what I've been through. And when I'm not in control and something, puts a shift in the day-to-day, I'm very much like, oh, how do I manage that? How can I fix it? How do I fix that to, get to, what I was intending to do?
Yeah.
If you could fix Jetstar's problematic issue
Well, this
with
is the problem.
departure and
I
arrival
know.
on time, you'd be doing God's work.
I know. Sometimes you just got to let shit go like that. But I'm not sure I'll fly Jetstar again.
We better pull that sponsorship proposal from Jetstar that we put in last week.
So we've thought long and hard about how we're sort of going to structure this episode. It's a really special one. But we actually just wanted to ask at the top, how are you feeling about today and about doing this?
I'm excited. I think, like even speaking to my brother about it last night, I wouldn't have flown here if I hadn't been excited about telling my story. I am nervous about it. My heart's racing a little bit. And I'm a little bit sweaty, but I'm excited and I've thought about this quite long and hard, even when I've been going through what I've been through. How can I tell my story and how can I help others? And I haven't ever really understood how I could do that, but there's an opportunity just to get out there and raise awareness.
Yeah. You first came on our radar in July last year through your brother Hugh, who was a massive help on our Duane Dalton episode. And he wrote to us in the aftermath and with some of the most meaningful and deep feedback about how we handled some rather delicate subject matter in that episode. Did you listen? You know Duane, right? Did you listen to that one?
I listened to that episode and I loved it. Everything about that episode and just what Duane shared about his life and just the realness of it and what he's been through as a person and his family, what they've been through. It was a hard listen, to be honest. It's something that resonated with me deeply based on what I've been through. Obviously very different scenarios, but that's how I first got onto your podcast, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, the audience really connected. And there's something about that rawness of telling your story in just real terms with sort of emotion in the voice. So that was kind of the start of our Low-Key Legends concept. He was a guy that most people didn't know the name, but, and you're a low-key legend for us. And we actually went back and forth with Hugh about just had a bunch of emails afterwards. Like, it seemed to get on really well. And we asked him if he had any other suggestions that we could use for a low-key after Duane. And I want to read what he wrote to us. He said, I haven't thought of another low-key legend until you asked just now, but I do have another one, closer to home than Duane. My little sister, Lauren Ray, Nee Roberts, is at least as impressive as he is. In a way, just like Duane, she received a phone call that makes you shake your head. How can this be true? A quick reevaluation of your life and your value set follows, and damn if she doesn't make me feel more inadequate now. Every time I call her, she's drying her hair after a surf or is packing her bag, tuning her bike for some distant adventure in a national park that I haven't visited. This weekend, she called me coming back from Rotorua, where she and her husband towed their little kids around some mountain bike trails in the rain. My weekend consisted of an expensive dinner out watching some Tour de France and the Warriors. She's always been a hero of mine, weird for an older brother, but I'm becoming ever more proud of her as she manages this next phase of her life, and in particular, the coping mechanisms that she's developing and her relentless focus on what really matters is such a cool thing to watch. I know she has her hard moments, but man, you can't catch her. She's seeking help and talking about it, which has always been an unusual in our rather stoic and conservative family. I don't know if the story has quite as much appeal. The bad news is pretty recent, but there is certainly a lesson here. So that was sent a little while ago. But we're just so stoked to have you, and we're sort of going to build into it. But what do you want to get from this experience?
A big thing for me, having gone through what I've been through, is your ability to talk about the hard times and be vulnerable about what you've been through, and the ability to communicate that with people, but also the fact that regardless of who you are or what you've done in the past, mental health, and that can hit you like a ton of bricks. Despite who you are or what you've done, no one's immune to that stuff. That's been a big part of my journey, and I want it to be known that this can happen to anyone, and you can be going through shit in your life and no one can realize that you're going through that, because you can go out and have a laugh and be with your mates and still appear to be you, but are going through something so deep that you do not know how to communicate it. And I'm still learning how to do that when I'm in that rut, that hole of not knowing how to climb out, but the importance of talking about it. And if anything, from what I've been through and the mental health struggles with that, if there's any purpose in that, it's for my kids, to teach them that being vulnerable and speaking about your feelings, and, you know, anyone can go through mental health issues. And if they ever do it, if they ever in that space, I want to be able to sit with them through that and just be there. I think it's such a big issue, and still, even though there are these campaigns of "Are you okay?", I just don't think they're quite getting there, because I think as Kiwis we have that, "Hey, how you going?" And it's always, "Yeah, I'm good." Always. You're never actually saying,
not
"You know
bad.
what, mate, I'm feeling like absolute shit today," because you're so worried about saying that and how it might affect that person and their response, and what their response is to that. You know, like how it impacts them, you telling them how shit you are or how hard your life is right now. And I've felt that through the start of what I've been through. It's like, if I'm truly honest about where I've been and how hard my life is, how does the person that I'm telling respond to that? And it's their responses that initially made me pull back and think, no, I can't voice this. I can't tell people how I'm actually feeling, because their responses are too hard for me to manage. I can't manage how it affects them. I can only manage and think and feel about myself right now, and I can't deal with other people's inability to manage and just be. That's all I want, is want someone to just be sitting next to me going, "I'm here. I'll just sit with you until you need me. I don't need someone to tell me how I think or feel," or, you know, it's just, I don't know, the mental health side of things for me it's a hard one. But
Man, that's such a excuse me. That's such a powerful opening, and I'm reflecting on the words that you're saying, and it takes me back. And I've spoken about this once before, but I never really kind of put much thought to it until I gave it some air. But when I was a teenager, I was up 15 or 16, I had a very good friend. He's now passed, but he had a heart transplant. And he was up here at hospital at Middlemore, and I came and visited him heaps. He was my first friend, I remember, from growing up in Taupo. And his mum one day just asked me, "Hey, I'm just going to leave you two alone. Can you just sit with Pete?" Because as I look back now, Pete was holding stuff in and he needed to let it out. And we just sat, exactly what you're saying. I just sat there and he just went, "Why me? Why is this happening to me?" He just like let everything out. And, you know, 15-year-old doesn't really know how to respond in that situation. But I did just sit and I listened. And I remember saying, I don't know what to say. But just for the fact of being present and holding that space,
so important.
I feel like it now, and again, I might be hyping it up, the clouds of memory maybe, raising me to a point that I don't really need to be, but that's always sat with me about just being present. And this dude does it really well with me and has done it really well with me in the past. And I had a chat on Facebook, another group of mine, where I've shared a little bit of stuff about some of my darkest moments and where I've been, and people saying, man, if you ever feel like that again, don't feel afraid to talk to us about it. And I'm sorry that you went through it. But it is the fear of what the reaction might be, or the judgment.
That's huge.
And like you're saying, managing the response is a big part of going through it sometimes.
100%. And initially I felt a lot of, I would tell people how I was feeling, particularly at the start, and I would get back sometimes how hard it was for them. And I'm like, I can't deal with your shit right now. Like, I am in it. Do not tell me how hard it is for you to watch me go through this. So immediately I'm like, that person, nah, I got to shut that person out, and I have got to focus on what I'm doing. But also, I'm going through this, and I don't need you to fix me. All I want from you, and it's so impossible to tell someone this, is just to listen. To listen and just be, because in that space, there's no fixing. Like, you're just in it, and you want someone's arm around you, and that's it. Someone to sit with you in the dark and not try and distract you from it, and just be with you through it.
It's a fucking strong start, Lauren.
Oh, sorry.
Mate, this is so good.
That's the platform, and that's what we want to do, is bring these conversations and these feelings out of the shadows and into the light. And it's bravery like this and honesty around what that's really like that helps do that.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to build into it. I want to meet Lauren Rob. Actually, before we meet modern day Lauren Ray, I want to paint a picture of Lauren Roberts. So as we do, we've canvassed a bunch of friends and colleagues and family, and we've got a few little stories and things like that. But tell us about growing up in Muriwai, blonde-haired beach kid who had the nickname Muscles.
I think eventually earned the nickname Muscles.
The nickname Muscle, and they've still got them, the guns.
Oh, God. Clearly you've been talking to my brother. Muriwai Beach is such a special place to me, and I'm so grateful for the upbringing I had. My parents had family of 6, big family, and just outdoors was us. And Muriwai Beach at that time, very low key, very small community compared to what it is now, and we were just made, basically. You weren't allowed inside if it was sunny, to roam the area back at dark. That was the rules. And I was trying to think the other day, at what point was I allowed to go down to that beach without an adult? And I think quite young. But that leads into, I guess, my surf skills and my journey for surf-lifesaving. But heavily involved in that surf club, and thanks to my father, trudged us down, rain or shine, every Sunday. Despite whether I wanted to go or not, we were made to. And just built this foundation and love of the surf. And I think because of the big family, we were very competitive. I was always trying to beat my brother and I was looking up to him, looking at what he was doing and seeing, I guess, the praise and how my parents were looking at him, thinking, I want that.
Because contextually, 6 kids, and you're the second youngest, right?
Yeah. And so my brother was paving this way of competing in surf-lifesaving and mixing with some of the best in New Zealand. And I was looking at him going, oh man, I want to be that. My parents are looking at him and I can see the praise. Well, not so much the praise. There was very limited praise in my family, but and not by, it's just, you were taught to work hard and I can't really explain it, but
take us into the actual living room, because Stephen runs a 4-kid operation, and I've been round to the Holloway.
4 kids. Your wife's a queen.
Yeah, she is. She really is. Bonnie Holloway, absolute queen.
From a family of 6, I told my mum when I was having my first, I was going to have 5.
Oh,
I've had 2.
Yep.
And
too.
Yeah. So the Holloway household is a beautiful household.
Thanks, man.
Bonnie runs a very tight ship.
I need to meet Bonnie. She sounds like a queen already.
Absolute godsend. But it is chaos.
I have no doubt.
Throw another 2 kids on top. What is that rough housing
Okay,
and
give
look
you
like?
an understanding of mealtime. Mealtime always at the table all together. One roast chicken between all of us. My mum can roast a chicken and get the meat off a chicken like no other. Yeah. I tell you what, like if we
She'd
have
be
a
fuming if she saw
if
him
we have a
eating
roast
chicken
chicken now, Mum, everyone will ask, Mum, can you get the meat off this chicken? She will get so much meat off it to feed all of us. But it was a race, and I knew if I didn't finish my meal first, I wasn't getting the very little leftovers that were there. So it was just competition throughout everything. And yeah, I don't know, like interesting.
There's very few houses that I'm aware of that are 7-bedders. So
Very much sharing rooms.
yeah, did you share a room with your younger brother Tom?
Loaded question.
I did.
How did that go?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
I still remember the bunk beds, being on the bottom bunk, pushing the springs. He hated it. Yeah.
Did you ever push him up and out?
No, tried, but always pushing him to the point where I would get absolutely told off. Me and my youngest brother fought like you wouldn't believe. I still remember, was it him chasing me with a BB gun or me chasing him with a BB gun and firing it around we lived in quite a bush property. I remember specifically teasing him about being adopted.
Ouch.
Yep.
That'll get
Like we fought like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Me and my youngest.
How's
Love him to death.
I was going to say, how's that
I look
now?
at him now and I'm proud as punch. He's got his own 2 kids. He's working hard, providing for his family, living the dream.
Part of the family now.
Yeah. Love him to bits.
Hugh's telling of your childhood was that if you gathered up all the talent and work ethic in the room across all the siblings, you had it. She said it all went to
Combined,
you.
right?
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all had something slightly different. All together, we would have made it.
No, you individually.
Oh, me? No, not. I don't look at myself like that at all.
We were told you'd say that.
And to be honest, I'm a little bit wary about talking about my sporting background
Oh, that's unfortunate for the next part of the podcast.
because I don't see it as being that special.
Okay, I'm going to let the audience decide. I'm going to read out some of your achievements. New Zealand under-16 surfer team, New Zealand under-19 Iron Woman surf champion, professional Iron Woman competitor, CrossFit top 3 in New Zealand, competed at the World Champs, New Zealand female weightlifting champion and record holder under 63 kg class, 7th at the 2014 Commonwealth Games in weightlifting.
Was there some canoe racing in there against Dame Lisa Carrington as well?
No way! Thank God, she was not around when. No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, canoe racing then was not at what it is now.
Okay.
But that is the shell. And to step back at the start, a sponsored surfer at 14, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm one of those people. Give me any sport and I can do it. I won't ever be the best at it, but I can do most sports, I reckon.
Yeah, like getting thrown in a social netball team, having never played before with a broken rib. Is that
I'm very competitive. I want to be the best, but I'm very aware of my skills, my ability, and what's probably achievable.
handstand press-ups at F45 after... that's it, being able to pull those out.
There's something about the way I was raised. Like, you do everything you do to the best of your ability. Yeah.
And your ability just happens to be kind of world and international class at times.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was because of the way I was raised and the limited praise that I received. I know my parents were proud. My parents did everything they could, particularly in my surf-lifesaving era, to get me to be the best of my ability. And by that I mean letting me move overseas when I was 19 and paying my way while I was over there for a couple of years. No, and it wasn't till I returned that I realised the financial strain that was causing. And like I said, they showed love in ways that didn't necessarily, they weren't saying, oh, I love you, you're so amazing, like, yeah, go and do that. But the way they were showing love was by doing. And I know my parents loved me, and they did these things for me that were amazing. But never did I come out of a race or do something and they would be like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
Just really old school, hard, like, it's hard to explain it because they were great parents.
Yeah.
But I knew I'd done well once when I won my first medals at the Nationals for surf-lifesaving. My dad was standing there and I could see there was something in his eye. He didn't say anything. Didn't say a thing. He just
had a look.
Good job. And that's it.
Have you ever brought that up with them
No.
as an adult?
I don't know if I could
Yeah.
bring that up because my dad's ability to communicate feelings is zero. And it's, no criticism to him. He's doing the best he can with the tools he's got.
Yeah.
And based on how he was raised, basically.
I think that's really a generational thing, right?
100%.
People of a certain generation struggle.
Yeah, and each generation is trying their best based on how they were raised. So like I said, no criticism to him. They did an amazing job in what they gave me growing up.
Parents aside, if you're a 14-year-old at high school with a surf sponsorship, are you one of the big kids on campus?
No, because I think then women in surfing was not... I was one of... I remember going away on a trip to Australia with the surf team, and there were 2 women on the team. The rest were male. It was a big team. No women chaperones, like very male-dominated sport. And I think at that stage, still women in surfing, it just, I don't know, there was this stigma about it. And it sort of pushed me away from it a little bit, to be honest. I was heavily involved in surf-lifesaving, very somewhat professional in the way surf-lifesaving was going. And surfing was still very much a lifestyle sort of thing. It just wasn't, I don't know if I want to go down into sort of what that trip was for me. But like I say, I was raised very strict. And, my father's a lawyer, judge, whatever. My mum, hard worker, drugs and things. No way. So to go out on a surf trip and people be taking drugs in a professional scene, it just was not for me. I was 15 and I just was so disappointed. So pulled away from that sport completely. Yeah.
And into Nutrigrain, surf.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Nutrigrain?
The Ironman series, yeah.
So I asked Hugh for like an example of, what you were like. And he said Corey Hutchins, when he was like training a bunch of kids in Gisborne, he said it was like a bunch of 16-year-old boys and then there was you and you were like 14. Big heavy surf and it was kind of some sort of race or training race or something. And you were just like out the front, just smashing it. Fearless.
Oh, wow. I remember that day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, is it as described?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know how he remembers it, but I remember going to Gisborne on a New Zealand Development Squad training scene. And the surf in Gisborne was big. And Corey was training with us. We were doing basically ins and outs. So, you basically had to get out the back of the surf and wait, and he would tell us when to come back in. So it was a race out the back. And I swear, like growing up in Muriwai, best thing, because I could navigate surf. Like any competition where there was surf, I knew I was on to, possibly win. And I still remember getting out the back at Gisborne, looking across and being like, yeah, I'm the first one. Beat the boys, beat the girls. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. And there Corey is, like, at the same time.
What are you doing?
So, yeah, I remember that. It was awesome. But, again, growing up in Muriwai, like, I literally spent all my weekend in the water surfing, surfboard, not only surfboards, but surfing surf-lifesaving boards, like going out and just catching waves after wave after wave. It was just the best place to
Some
grow
upbringing.
Up. I know, and I think that's why I took my kids back there to grow up. But my memories of Muriwai, or what I love about Mirabai is based on my memories as a child. It's an interesting one. Like, yeah, it's why I love it, and it's different now. It's not the same.
So connect us up. So it's got into the Iron Woman, professional Iron Woman for a bit, and then got into K1, and as a result of that, you were doing sort of strength training and got into lifting. Is that accurate?
To be honest, I got into the surf-lifesaving. I moved to Australia to have a go at Nutrigrain Iron Woman scene. Happened to join a club over there that is very supportive and was just had a great coach. Still has a great coach. Very different now, but spent about 2 years over there with my best mate. We moved over there together. She's still over there, and I'm still in contact with her. And made the Ironman series 1 year. Had the best race of my life on the trial day, and made the cut. Overtrained completely on this old school method of like, you are just drilled with training 3 times a day, every day, like no life. Got to the series, and I had a little bit hard to talk about this and honestly to reflect on it, because I got to the biggest race of my career. I've finally made the Ironman series, and I just had nothing. Like I just had nothing at all. And it was the first time I remember running in a race, and I'm gutted to say this. I remember doing that race thinking, I've got nothing in this. Like, I'm not here, like physically. I'm not here mentally. I wish this wasn't me right now, because I trained my whole life for that race and it just didn't work out.
But were you always so in tune with that self-reflection piece?
No, I didn't know what was going on at the time. So to me, that was like retirement. I'm like, oh, if I'm not into this, if I'm not feeling this, like time to cut it. So I stopped.
Do you know now what was going on?
100%. And I wish, and a lot of my sporting, I look back and I think, oh man, what I know now?
What was?
I just overtrained. I had no inkling of diet, of rest, of going by how your body's feeling physically and emotionally, because I was raised to just keep going. You do not quit. Like, you quit, mate, you like don't come and sit at my table if you're quitting. Like, there's no way you quit in my family.
Yeah.
And I still remember little stories about like being in the car, my sister Shannon, she was a great swimmer. I remember my little brother getting this story from my dad. I think he had a lot of talent, but he obviously saw what we were going through in terms of like the pressure to perform from my parents. And I remember my dad saying something to him about, oh, you're not giving it a go. You got a small ticker, P heart. You got a P heart, mate. Like, look at your sister Shannon. She is out there and racing hard, and you are just like, he was getting grilled. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you don't quit it in my family. Like, you give it 100% all. And so, yeah, I wish I knew more about how to train effectively. I had a very old school coach. He's not around anymore. He unfortunately passed away, but yeah, I think when I was racing, he must have been in his 60s. And he had trained some of the best in the world in surf lifesaving. Carla Gibbott, she was a phenomenal athlete, but she was a racehorse. Like, she was, one and a half, who knows, but she was one of those people that responded to that style of training. And it's not until you're out of that you realise that everyone responds so differently. And that training has to be tailored to how it suits you. And it didn't suit me.
Yeah.
But
I could keep going for a long time.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where
So CrossFit would have suited you then, because that's...
Yeah, so came home, went to uni, decided that I needed to get a job, because there was another reason to come home, the women in surf lifesaving at the time, and it's still now, you're not making a living from it anymore. At the time, when I was 14, people were earning truckloads. Now sport is coming back slightly, but you're not making a living off it unless you're maybe the top person. So I came home. Even the girls that I was racing with and winning, they were winning cash prizes and then working 2 jobs. And I was like, I don't want that. So I came back, went to uni, became very unfit, a little bit overweight. Realised that I needed to do some exercise, but a little bit down about what to do, had left what I thought was me, surf-lifesaving. I felt like I was known for that. Met up with an old friend. She was like, I've started this gym. Why don't you come and train with me? I was like, oh, okay. Went and had a go, and, CrossFit's a bit of a cult, let's be honest. Like, I got absolutely stuck in.
Yeah.
Like, I was in deep.
Yeah. How long until you started wearing knee sleeves?
Oh, mate. First day.
Yeah, it would have been. That's the go-to, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Kipping pull-ups.
Oh, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Ignoring injuries.
Yeah. I was in so deep to the point where I was like, I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah.
This is my life.
Nationals down at the Mount and Labour Weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like paleo.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Paleo.
Yeah.
I was deep in that. I remember going to a family function, and we celebrate food when we get together. And I'm like, no, I can't eat any of this. Like, and my siblings are all looking at me going, you are fucking weirdo. Like, what's wrong with you? But got stuck into that so deep. Went overseas for it.
Did you go to Worlds?
The CrossFit Games I went to that.
That's kind of like, pause there, like for all of the little bit of kind of dogging on CrossFit, that is a pretty cool achievement.
It's very different to what, it was very different then to what it is now. It is a full-blown thing now. It wasn't that when I was doing it.
But ESPN, was it on ESPN? And
I don't know if it was video on TV. It was probably the last year before it went quite big.
Was Rich Froning competing?
He was.
Okay.
You know him.
I'm a closet CrossFit.
Oh, mate.
More of a Matt Walker.
God.
Matt Walker. Anyway, okay. So how do you get out of CrossFit?
So
and into
the strength
lifting?
training.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved the lifting. Met one of my best mates, Philippa Patterson, Richie Patterson's wife. She was deep in CrossFit too. She was very good at it, and they had got together through he'd come to the gym one day and done a bit of a tutorial to the CrossFit gym, and they met and basically got together, long story short. And I remember one day talking to her and being like, she's like, come and train with me. Come have a look. I'm going to do this. Or was it the other way around? Maybe I had started training at the Millennium maybe. Yeah, that's how it worked. I had started training at the Millennium with the New Zealand crew it wasn't the New Zealand crew, it was the North Sport weightlifting team. I'd gone there, I said, hey, I want to learn more. Can I come and join? And the coach at the time was basically trying to coerce me to just do lifting. He said, if you come here, you can't do CrossFit.
Yeah.
That was very you cannot do that
right.
sport. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll give this a go. We'll just have fun and see what happens. And I had talked to Pippa, and she at the time was still in CrossFit heavily. And I said, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm going to train too. I come over, and she was training with Richie, and we were all in the same gym training hard, and me and her were just going at it. Every session we were to give perspective, she's half my size. So she's very talented. And we were sort of matching weights, very competitive. She's on the other side of the gym on a platform. I'm on this side, and we're going 1 for 1. And realising that we're both very competitive, despite being in different categories. It didn't really, it did matter. I mean, I knew how good she was, but I got stuck in that next. It seems like every sport I went to, I'm like, I'm just going to give this a go, see what happens. And the coach at the time of North Sport, he said to me one day, he's like, look, if you want to dedicate your time and energy to this, I think there is an opportunity here for you to compete at the Commonwealth Games. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that'd be cool. No sport I've been in the past had an opportunity to go to a level of, that. So I was like, oh, that sounds fun. We'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So that's how I got there.
We're gonna visit the Commonwealth Games a little bit later on, but just to give us a picture, during all of this sports stuff, are you working on the side? Are you building a career at the same time?
I'm at university. Throughout the CrossFit phase, my friend who had the gym, she got me into the paddling. She was still paddling at the lake, in Lake Pupuki. We were doing a bit of that to see if CrossFit could translate to kayaking. And I was sort of just going along with that because I was a bit lost, didn't really know what I wanted to do in terms of sport anymore, wasn't that passionate about kayaking. I mean, I'd come from playing in surf and then going to flat water. It just was not something that I was interested in. So it was just sort of doing that. And all this time I'm at university, trying to get a degree in town planning.
Town planning. We were talking about that.
Yeah, we
you
hadn't
said,
know.
she's a town planner. I was like, what does that mean?
What towns have you planned?
Oh, not that many.
But some? Are you allowed to? If you're a town planner, are you allowed to say which towns that you have planned?
I don't know.
For fear of retribution?
Do I want to say that I worked for Wakakotahi, planning their transport network?
Maybe you have, maybe you haven't.
There's so many complaints about that. I don't know if I want to say that. But,
Okay, maybe you didn't.
It's out there
Maybe
now.
you
it is
didn't
out
plan
there
that
now.
down.
But I worked for my brother. My oldest brother's a town planner. He's very successful in his business, and he took me on at one point, and that was great. Worked for him while I was training, and he gave me a little bit of a concession there with what I was doing. And
Just for the uninitiated, what does a town planner actually do?
basically, if you want to build a house, you come to me and say, this is what I want to build. Can I get council approval for this? And I prepare all the plans and get all the reports together necessary to send that off to council and get approval.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you planned like what
No.
the suburbs
some do.
look like.
That's more of a strategic planner.
Okay.
So they're in more of a zoning, like figuring out what zones go where. And
Yeah, this is residential, this is commercial, 50-50.
yeah. That's sort of more the planning side of things.
Buried in the
you,
weeds.
you got it.
Yeah, I'm a rabbit hole guy.
He's
Like
a
when something piques my interest, I just dive after it.
Yeah.
All right. So this takes us to the second chapter of the Lauren story. And we put a lot of thought into how to approach this. But we decided it's actually best to just let you tell your story and we'll sort of probe away with questions as we go along. But you got married to Dan, who we'll meet in a little bit, and you've transitioned from being an athlete to being a wife and a working mum. And then you get dealt a blow that no one expects to hear. Can you tell us about how you received your initial cancer diagnosis?
Yeah. That started, I'll probably start with when I noticed something on my body that was foreign to me. And I ride a lot of bikes, like my brother had said. So I was riding my bike and finally start to be a little uncomfortable on the seat, to give you an idea of where we're talking. And we might go into that a bit. Take a look after the bike ride thinking, oh, that really hurt. Take a look down there and think, wow, what's that? I've never seen that in my life. It's small looking like mole. It's quite hard. It's on the surface. I'm like, okay, I'll look over that and see what happens. 2 months later, it's still the same. Nothing's changed. I'm like, why I waited 2 months? Don't ask me that. I still go over that in my mind.
Is it because it's in an intimate area?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And the stigma about
Below the belt.
sexual transmitted diseases and things like that. I'm like, what is this? I am obviously married. I don't know. There's all sorts going through my head.
Yeah.
And the thought of even ringing my doctor and saying, hey, I've got something on my labia that I don't know what it is. Just having that awkward conversation, because I've said in the past, talking about vaginas and things is challenging for my generation. For some reason, there is a lot of stigma around sex and shame and all that kind of stuff. So I was nervous about all of that stuff. So anyway, I get down that path of ringing the doctor thinking, okay, I need to come in. It's lockdown. Well, we're getting to the end of lockdown. And she's like, can you do a video? I said, no, I can't video my vagina for you. Can I please come in and talk to you about this? And she's like, okay, cool. We get in there. She's like, I said, I think I've hurt myself on my bike. And I'm riding mountain bikes. She said, oh, yeah, looks like you have. we'll remove it and just send it away for testing, and just to be cautious. And so I get a call probably a week later. I'm sitting there eating ice creams with my kids. I'm out in the car, we're eating an ice cream. The nurse rings me. She says, can you come in and see the doctor about your results? And I said, oh, well, yeah, when? She's like, not till Monday, and this is Thursday. And I said, can't you just tell me over the phone, like, is this something serious? Do I need to come in? And she said, yes. And immediately because in the back of my mind, I had been Googling and also quite aware of the fact that this could be some form of cancer. And I was like, okay. And she said, alternatively, she can do a phone consult after work. I'm like, shit, this must be serious. And she can ring me after work. And so I was like, yep, phone consult, thanks. I get off the phone, I ring Dan, and I'm in tears already driving with the kids. And he's like, you need to calm down. We need to just take it one step at a time. I'm coming home and we will talk with her about what's happening and figure it out. So he gets home, 5 o'clock comes around, she calls, and she said, look, I'm really sorry, but this is melanoma. And I said, I just looked at Dan. I just was like automatically an absolute complete shock, but so fearful of my life straight away because I remember the adverts on television from when I lived in Australia about how deadly melanoma is, and that I still remember the advert, melanoma can kill. In early detection, talked about that, and I remember it had this visual image of, while it looks like a mole on the surface, the underneath in your skin was this angry, like, disease thing that was alive, and it was so big. That was the visual image on TV. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm going to die. Yeah, And she said, look, right now we are going to get you into see a specialist. I'm going to ring everyone I know that can get you in. We're leading into Christmas. So I'm thinking, shit, I need to get in soon. I can't sit here in this space of not knowing what to do next. And she was great. She got me in within a week to see someone. Yeah.
Have you done the worst thing possible as well and started Dr. Googling?
I was going to say that Google is definitely your worst nightmare in this instance, because I Googled for the next week about prognosis, and there was nothing really available online about vulvar melanoma.
How rare
is it? Incredibly rare, right?
Very rare, to the point where the specialist I went to was scrambling. He did not know what to say to me. He, the way he was speaking to me was very, he just didn't know what to do. But thankfully, he did say to me, he said, look, I'm going to be upfront. I am a skin melanoma specialist. There are two different types of melanoma, skin and mucosal, which is internal. Skin, very treatable nowadays, provided that it is early detection. Early detection in all of these is key. Mucosal, very different. And at the same time, depending on the type of gene type you have of that disease, because there are very many different types of gene types for this cancer. And you basically, if you get the lucky straw and you get the gene type that's most treatable, you're good to go. But there are some that aren't. So he says, look, I'm part of this wider group at the hospital. We all get together every fortnight to talk about cases that we don't quite know how to, treat. And we get all the specialists around the table and we figure out a game plan. He said, I'm going to take your case to that team of specialists and we're going to figure out what next. And that's basically what happened. He said, the gynecology team at the hospital is the best we've got. They are the team of leading specialists in New Zealand. So you want to be at the hospital for this. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Get me there. And so he passed me on to my surgeon. I went there, and the initial consult, they don't try to scare you, basically give you black and white information. And he by no means worried me, but at the same time said, this is very serious. Said to me that there is a chance, obviously, it was giving the indication that there is a chance we've got this early. There is a chance that all we need to do is go in, take a wider incision, check that we've got clear margins on that removal of my labia, and if we've got it all and there are clear margins, we can say we've got everything. But to be safe, we're going to take a lymph node as well. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. So he said, well, he planned it quite quickly, got in, got it out. At the end of the surgery, I remember him coming in and say, yep, I'm going to give you a call, let you know your results. But I remember sitting at work one day getting a letter from the Auckland hospital, and it said, yep, your appointment's been changed to in person. Please come in. And I remember ringing my older brother at the time who, in a big family, I had a team around me that was helping me figure out how to go about this in terms of making the right decisions. And my oldest brother, Nick, was very much involved in that. But his wife had been through her own cancer journey, so they were involved in general. But he, running his own business, very successful, just, he's good under stress and under pressure. He knows how to make decisions. He's very much one step at a time, and he was just great to have him involved. And I remember calling him saying, I think there's something wrong. And he said, oh, look, they probably found that maybe they don't have clear margins. They're going to have to take a bit more, or you might have to take some treatment, but let's just go in and see. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, that's great advice. Yep, let's do that. Turn up to the hospital within 10 minutes of getting there, actually. They call me and say, oh, look, your appointment's been changed. You can't come in today. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, it's nearly Christmas. We are going away. I need this information. I can't go away not knowing what's going on. And I just pleaded with her. I was like, please, can someone just see me today? I'm here. I've driven all the way from Muriwai. I need to see someone to tell me what's going on. And she said, okay, we don't know how long it's going to take. Your surgeon's in hospital. You might need to see someone else. I'm like, cool, go in there. 3 hours later, a woman's been basically given this side pass of a file, and she's got no clue what this is. She is probably the worst person to get, and I, for a long time, hated her. But after everything, and probably about 6 months into my treatment, realised this poor woman was doing her best at the time of walking through a disease she probably had no clue what it was or how to deal with it, and absolutely fumbled this side pass of trying to tell me what was going on. And I remember sitting down and the conversation started with, we don't think there's any treatment available to you. Not, oh, we've done your surgery, we found something in your lymph nodes, we still need to figure out the pathway, because there still needs to be a pathway, whether it's we're going to explore this option of treatment or, you're out of here, sorry. And I was just sitting there, I looked at Dan and I was like, hang on a minute, what are you talking about? Can you, she's like, yeah, so with your melanoma, it's very aggressive. There's no treatment available. And even if you went down chemo, it probably wouldn't work. Jeez. So, yeah, you need to be thinking about quality of life. Oh, man. And I looked at Dan, I was like, what? And then this other surgeon came in who was basically the assistant of my surgeon. And I looked at her and I said, am I going to die from this? And she said, yes. And I just sat there for a minute and I was like, I don't know what to say. But with the limited information they were giving me about treatment, they were also talking about full surgery to remove everything that basically that would probably confirm that I'm a woman. And I just think I'm under such stress right now about being told I'm going to die, to the point where she's saying, do you want to do the further surgery? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what the fuck do I have to lose? And my husband's going, hang on a minute, they're talking about quality of life. Like, we have an intimate relationship. They're telling you you're going to die. Like, are you sure? I'm pissed. I'm pissed right now because I'm being torn, to no fault of Dan's, because he's in a very different headspace. I'm not saying that what he said was wrong, And looking back, if that was the case that I was going to go down, I probably, in a rationale mindset would have thought, I still want to be a partner and a lover to my husband. Like, I want that if I'm going to die. So she's like, great, I'll book you in for the surgery. And Dan's like, no, we need to talk about this. Can you just hold off? I want to talk. He's saying, I want to talk to the surgeon. I want to talk to our surgeon. Like, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to our surgeon. And I'm sitting there speechless because I don't even know what to say. And at the end of it, she said, do you want a mental health nurse to call you? And I said, yeah, I guess that's a good idea. Like, can you arrange that? And she's like, yep. No one called.
Oh, no.
No one called. And this just guts me about our health system because these people, like I said, she did her best.
Yep.
She is working in a profession where she was absolutely doing her best at the time, but it's so broken. People are just leaving that hospital and have no support. And I've been capable because of, I think, I've had people to lean on. My husband is the backbone of that. He has been an absolute strength, but also my family. Like, I've had people to lean on to get me through this. There are people out there that don't have the resources, don't have the money, can't afford to get mental health care, and are left to fucking rot in this space of a dark hole of despair. And it guts me that happens to people.
Did you go immediately into that black hole of despair despite having those support structures around you?
No, I did for a couple of weeks. But my team was absolutely fighting for me. And my oldest brother and my sister, they just were relentless. They did not stop about trying to figure out what next. And I'm like, there is no fucking next, mate. Like, don't. He was texting me. He was like, you could be that 2% of people that get out of this, that win. Don't stop believing in that. I'm just sitting there going, mate, I've sat in a bloody office in a hospital and people are telling me that I'm going to die from this. Like, I don't believe that right now. But I ended up, we got home and I rang my surgeon. I rang the nurse and I said, look, please can I speak to my surgeon? I need to speak and hear this from him because what I've just heard was just an absolute shocker of a delivery and lack of direction. Now, what do I do next? Yeah. No one's telling me you should have this surgery because I realised there was very much a balancing act there. But he called me. I sat there with my husband and we asked the same questions, and I remember him describing this to me, and the fact that we'd found cancer cells in your lymph nodes of a certain gene type. It's called BRAF V600E. I'll never fucking forget that.
Jeez. Nothing.
I know. He described it as, now that cancer is on a highway. It is now in your bloodstream. It is aggressive and it is driving around your body at full speed. And we don't know how to get it off the highway. And I'm like, oh God. Okay. I said, I've done things in my life that I think are hard. Throw it at me. Like, I can survive. Like, give me chemo, give me radiation, give me it all at the same time, and I will show you that I can do this. And he's like, nah, we can't. It does not work on this gene type. We have done it. There's no way that we can put that resources into you because it doesn't work. He said there's a clinical trial you can go on at the hospital and it's 50-50. You might get the treatment, you might not get the treatment. You won't know.
Fuck off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought a clinical trial was like you sign up and you know that
No, not this one.
Oh, wow.
So they're basically testing this treatment against people that have the same thing, and we'll see how it differentiates and if it works.
Did you feel sick?
I felt so sick that I didn't know if I could survive just getting through date. Like, my stomach was in constant knots that it hurt. Like, I don't have abs. At least I don't have any more. But it just hurt. because my stomach wouldn't stop churning. And the only time it stopped was when I was sleeping, but I would wake up in the morning in pain because I was like, oh, it's starting again. It's a nightmare. Oh, here we go. And straight away, tense. I felt so sick to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can live my life with that churning of my stomach. I know it sounds strange. Constantly. I don't know if I could do that. And it was for 2 weeks I sat in that space of looking at my kids. They're too young to tell them what's going on with mum.
How old were the kids at this point?
3 and 5. Absolutely can't explain what's happening to mum and why I am putting on a front to try and be a mum and forcing myself out of bed every morning, to be there for them. But trying to have, to pretend and front this and just be there for them so they don't know what's happening was horrible. And the fact that I couldn't be honest with them was so hard. But I felt like I sat in that space of the biggest thing on my mind at that point was regret. The regret you feel when you are knowing that you're coming to the end of your life at some point, and the regret that comes with that of, oh man, I wish I'd done. I don't know. To me, there were two things that I wish I'd worked harder on my relationship with my husband. And that's not to say that we weren't in a great space. But because of the general life pressures and strains of mortgages, work, family, we had gone through so many big changes that I didn't feel at that point we were at our absolute best. And I regretted that. I regretted that I hadn't focused on that I hadn't put purposeful work into being the best version of me for him. And yeah, we hadn't thought about doing, I don't know. I wanted to be a better wife and have a great marriage. And I had regrets about the type of mother I was. Yeah. And that sat with me so deeply. And I can't explain what that feels like because now I'm on a mission to not have regrets. Mm-hmm. And it's quite easy to make decisions now to change our life in order to make sure that I have no fucking regrets.
That's a hell of a cocktail of being sick, but also psychologically going through that load at the same time. What strategies or things were you able to employ? Was it trial and error to get out of the funk or to make sense of everything that was happening?
We needed a game plan, and I knew that. I was absolute, and again, no disrespect to the health system, the waiting game in that space is horrific. Probably 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a call. Oh, I ring the hospital. I ring the oncology team. I'm like, I'm still waiting for my referral to the oncology team. So I'd been and seen my surgeon. My surgeon gave me this bad news, and I needed to be referred to oncology to figure out if there was any treatment they were willing to give me. I ring the nurse, and she's like, oh, we received your file. I was like, hey, what? And she's like, oh, let me call your department, the gynecology team. I get a phone call from my surgeon going, oh, I'm sorry, your file wasn't filed correctly. Oh, my God. And so they haven't received it. I've just sent it over now, so you should get a call. And I said, I'm still actually waiting for also the mental health practitioner to call me. Oh, okay. I'll organise that too. Nothing happened in that space. And thankful again to my brother. My brother Nick just knows people. He managed to get me in to see the top surgeon in oncology, gynecology, privately, organised, paid for. Go and see this guy. I've got you an appointment. Go and see him. Finally, we're getting a game plan, and my mental state is shifting, but I'm very wary of not getting my hopes up based on what I've been told. And we go and see this guy, and he's like, yeah, my job is basically to cure you, but this is very serious, and we've got 2 options of treatment. And I'm like, this is a fucking like what? This is weird. And I walk out of that appointment, and I look it down, and I'm like, this isn't real. This cannot be real. That someone's just told me there's now treatment for me. And the doctors and the hospital are saying, no, you're going to die. How do I manage that? Yeah. And for so long, Dan's like, I could see he was feeling better, but at the same time, I'm like, nah. In my head, I'm like, this isn't us. This is not our team. This is not the people that we need to see. And the guy's like, I'm going to send your pathology test off again. We'll get it tested. I get an email. I'm away camping at this point. I'm like, I got to go camping. I got to take my kids away. I just got to get out of my house. And that's another thing, just trying to keep moving one step at a time. And I'm pleased I went camping because I was surrounded by people that love me, my friends, my family. Me and Dan are like entwined. I don't want to leave his side. I get an email saying, yep, your skin cancer has come back as being classified as skin cancer. I'm like, this was on my vagina. Is that skin? And my brother, I sent the email off to him just going, oh, yeah, see that information. I'll send it off. They can read it. Like my brother and my sister-in-law and my sister were reading all the detailed information to help me figure out what to do. And my brother comes back and he's like, this is great news. It's skin cancer. That's really treatable. Let's do it. And I was like, hang on. No, I've been told it's not skin cancer. It's mucosa. It's internal to, it's not on skin. And I go back to him. I'm like, hang on a minute. My doctor's told me it's not skin cancer. It's mucosal. And the specialist comes back again. He's like, no, I've had it tested. So I am so confused. Yeah. And I call my sister, again, another person on my team. She was one of those people that was just good at being with me. And she took me and the kids. We all went to the museum one day. And I remember getting a phone call from my surgeon. I was like, I need your absolute 100% assurity that this is either skin cancer or it's mucosal. He said there should be no question about this. It is mucosal. And that is so important based on the type of treatment. If I'd gone down the path of paying $100,000
holy shit,
to get treatment for a cancer that's not skin related, I would have no. So I went back again for the 3rd time to this guy saying, hey, look, my surgeon's saying no way. This is not it. And then he starts backpedaling. I realised he hadn't read the pathology report correctly. He hadn't seen that the gene type and where it was located. I'm like, this is not my person. So we were all about getting opinions. I wanted more. I wasn't prepared to take a risk on that guy, even though I'm being told he's the best we've got. Thankfully, my cousin rings me from Australia and she says to me, hey, we barely know each other at this point. She lives in Australia. I only see her for funerals. And she says, hey, I've heard your news. She's a GP. I'm in a Facebook group with a woman that's world leading over here in melanoma. I've asked her if she will have a Skype call with you and she's keen. Will you do this? And I said, hell yeah, like another opinion. I want that. She organises this online meeting. I've got me, my cousin in one on a screen, my sister, my brother, and immediately she's like, all right, which one's Lauren? And I'm like, hey. And she is just black and white, straight. This woman is off the charts in terms of talent and knowledge and brain. Yeah, she's just an angel on earth. Like, she has changed my life, and I'm so pleased I meet her. And my cousin is just, she is someone that now sits at my table. She is so important to me. She says to me, you have one thing going for you right now, and that's the BRAF V600E. If you did not have that gene type, which the doctors here had told me was the worst, and it's so aggressive, and it is. She said, if you didn't have that, I'd have to say, sorry, nothing for you. But because you've got that, we've got treatment for you. No. And I was like, again.
Yeah.
Mindfuck.
Yeah, washing machine of
I'm just spinning to the point where what she's talking about, I can't even contemplate, can't process it. She's asking me where it is, where it was removed, because there had been questions in the past from other specialists about where it was removed. I'm having to bring up a picture of vaginas on my screen.
we've all done that. we've all done that before.
Should I test your anatomy in women's
Yeah, you
vaginas?
can give it a go.
Oh, there's the difference between the labia and vulva. Do you know the difference?
Yeah, inner and outer. Wow. And the vulva's like the V-dub hood.
Oh my gosh.
My man knows his downstairs
I
operations.
had to do some Googling.
Yeah, I've done it.
Okay, so you've been down the same space.
Clear search
Awesome.
history afterwards if it's a shared device.
Or a work device.
Yeah, careful on those especially.
Yeah. So she's like, yep, definitely we are talking about mucosal melanoma. So internal to the body. Can go anywhere in your body, go behind your eyes, anywhere. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, yep, all you have to do, come over here, treatment, we've got it for you, $80 a month, funded, government funded treatment for me, rather than remortgaging my house to pay for something that I can't. In New Zealand, we're not funding melanoma to the same point they are. So $5,000 a month here, $80 over there. So within 2 weeks, I'm there. 2 weeks, I've moved, I've arrived, appointment in the next day. My cousin's with me the whole time, listening to all these conversations, because to be honest, we walk out of them. And the whole thing with these initial appointments is she's giving you all the options and you have to decide what's best for you. And my cousin's in there listening and I'm just like, too much information. I don't even get half of it. And she is doing all the research for me. She's read the clinical trials that this woman has done, talking about the surgeries and whether you should do them or not. And she's just a sounding board for me of like partially removed, so not my husband. And I'm just so pleased we went there because, like I said, initially we were talking about surgery of removing basically a lot more of what's down there.
Everything.
Yeah,
more or less.
everything. And I'm so pleased I went there because that was such a big choice and decision for me. And not even my oncologist that I saw over there could answer that. And then I went to the gyno over there, the gynecologist that she works with. And he said, nah, we're not doing that. It's already spread. You know, there's no point in taking that if it's already spread. If you came to me and said, it's just here, and I'd say, yeah, let's remove it. So there's no chance of this coming back. But it's already gone. Like now we've just got to treat it, and we have treated people in this, and yeah, you just need to trust the process. But you know, also you got 50-50 chance. And those were my percentages, 50-50.
Wow.
Because the treatment is so new.
Pause there before we get to Aussie and the treatment situation.
Yeah.
In your team, as you call it, how important are things like terminology and communication? And does it get down to words that are used in conversation? Like, do you put guards around that, for want of a better term? Like, I guess what I'm dancing around the topic of, like, your mortality. Like, are you in conversations with people, as we've spoken
My
about? My
specialists or my team of...
No, your team of people, of friends and family.
We are absolutely talking about that.
Wow, okay.
Very honestly, especially with my sister. Yeah. I'm sitting with her, talking about that and begging that she I don't know, that there's something about leaving my daughter that I just struggled with, and obviously leaving my son too, but the importance of a mother figure in my daughter's life and my son's. I remember sitting there with her. They were watching TV and we were sitting outside, and I'm just begging of her to be there for them through all those changes in life, through her developing as a woman, to have those conversations that I wanted to have with her. just to not forget about my family. And, I've lost a sister. And I look at that and I think it's easy to move on when it's not you. As time passes, it is easy to move on and forget. I just was so worried about people forgetting about my family and not being there for them. Not intentionally, but, no one was going to be there like I was going to be there, obviously, and I needed someone to just assure me that they weren't going to forget about them for me and be there for my kids and have conversations that I think probably my husband needed support in. And I was having that. My sister kept saying, 5 years, even if we've got 5 years with you, we're going to make it the best fucking 5 years of, and I'm just sitting there going, fuck, 5 years is going to pass in a second. It's not enough. Yeah.
That decision, we sort of skipped over the decision to move to Australia. Happened really fast. It was, you moved over there in I think you said a week or two.
Yeah.
And that's kids and husband and everything. It's the decision you had to make. But what story are you telling the kids?
We're going on a trip. And they are so excited. I don't know if had been on a plane, but we got them suitcases. They put stickers all over the suitcases. They were just so excited about the bloody suitcases that were on wheels. And we're going on a trip, and we're just go and live in Australia. And my kids just so excited that we're going to see crocodiles. I'm like, we're not going to see crocodiles, but yeah, they were stoked. The biggest thing they remember too is like the fact that when we were in Brisbane, we were staying in this bloody high rise, and I'm scared of heights. And they still talk about Mum doesn't like that tower. Can we go stay in the tower again? Mum, you'd be real scared. I'm like, yeah, I didn't like it, but they loved it. They loved that the little part. That it was very hard for them. I'm not going to downplay the fact that I was sick. My husband's mental health struggled. He was unwell. It was a hell of a time. But getting there was fine because they were just pumped. I was full of adrenaline because finally I had found someone that I trusted. And once we arrived, the hospital called me. And they were like, oh, where you been? What you done? I'm like, mate, no one's called me. I've moved on. Like, I'm not waiting for you. I've now found someone that has got treatment for me and that knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. They're like, oh, who? What? Where? And they just like, I was just like, it's too late. Like, and I said, by the way, still no one's called me about my mental health. Like, I think they called me 3 months later.
Fuck.
Once I'd moved again down the coast.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bad.
And I wished that someone had called me even now because I should have got onto that from the start. Even though I was so stuck in adrenaline of like, we've got shit to do and I've got appointments and things and we're starting, and I wasn't thinking about the mental health side. And I should have thought about it sooner because by the time I thought about it, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to see. Like for some reason, I know it's probably after COVID, it was really hard to get in to see someone over there. I struggled big time to find someone to talk to. And it's finding that right person. I don't know if you've ever talked to someone about, So for me, it's about finding someone that you feel like you could probably hang out with, that you can relate to, that isn't 80 years old. And I don't know, I just wanted to chat. It wasn't just, had to be free-flowing and feel like I'm hanging out with someone. And I found that, and I'm so pleased, but it took a long time.
To sort of close off the Australia part, just in terms of timelines, like how long since that initial diagnosis did you move to Australia?
Probably 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And then how far removed are we now, present day, from that? Is that like
from moving?
Yeah.
A couple of years.
So, you've been there a couple of years.
So I moved to Australia to start the treatment, and that treatment was a year long, and I'm now a year post-treatment.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I try not. This is a hard space to be in because every time I go in for my scans, I'm like, this time I'm going to celebrate. I am going to I can give myself that. And every time I come out and I go back into a hole of nah, can't celebrate, still don't know where my life will go or lead to. And I don't want to celebrate because I'm scared it might come back. And I don't want to have that disappointment. I'd rather go in knowing that there's chances it could come back and not be totally shocked or disappointed that it could come back. But regardless of that, I have had I had my scan last week and my results, 12 months post-treatment, still clear. I'm out of the most riskiest phase of the monitoring, and I'm now into a 6 month. Every 6 months, I'm checked for another 2 years before I can sort of say there's probably, I think, 2% chance of recurrence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those checkups must be brutal. Waiting to get the results?
They're pretty good over there. My doctor, I see privately for free somehow. She is, because of my rareness of this cancer, and I think you asked that before, how it is so rare that they see it once every 2 years. I am on a priority checklist of once I'm in for my scan, I think those scan results are with the doctor the next day. So I'm not waiting around too much. Like here in the hospital, you're waiting a week or two. So I'm quite grateful of the process over there, to be honest. So she just calls me the next day and we do a Skype call, and every time goes through my body and shows me the scan. Every scan, well, not every scan, but some scans I've had some really interesting feedback, and it's based on what the technician is seeing. And I got told I have a second spleen in one of them. And I think more recently, that I had 2 broken ribs from a mountain bike accident. So she was like, what have you been doing? Yeah. Why have you got 2 broken ribs? I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. She's like, don't push it too hard. So I'm like, you've got to live life.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like, don't push it too hard, but are you still foot to the floor?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
All gas, no
but
brakes.
To be honest, when I came off my mountain bike, I'm like, oh my God. Maybe that's a bit too hard.
Yeah. But it hasn't slowed you down physically?
No, I'm still trying to push myself. But also with the mental health, have realised how important to me exercise and being outside in general is, surfing, mountain biking, all that kind of stuff.
In that regard, is Aussie a better location for, medical aside, is a better location for you to fulfil those pursuits?
It offers us better work-life balance. So, yes, gives us more opportunity to do those things. That's part of the reason we moved. I just want to be in the water. So do my kids. And, we're now able to do that all the time, to the point where it's getting every morning and every evening. And I'm a little bit tired of how often they're asking to go in the water and go surfing. But, again, at the same time, I'm just like, go with it. These kids are frothing about being by the beach, and it's hot and they love it. And what a thing. Give my kids. Yeah.
We're going to come back to some more themes here, but we're going to take a little sporting interlude. I said we'd talk about Com Games at some point, and it's one of the most interesting parts of your sort of sporting achievements. And we spoke to Richie Patterson, who coached you about that time. And he shared a couple of stories which perhaps speaks to your mindset in dealing with your cancer journey. And the first one was around your determination. So Richie said, leading into 2014, we had to make up some big ground to get out of the qualifying mark in a short period of time. I was pushing all my athletes pretty ruthlessly at the time. I look back at the coaching style and the program I had them on, and I don't think anyone would cope with that in present day. She hit a personal best in the snatch at training, and I put more weight on and said, let's go again. She was satisfied with her PB lift, but stepped up anyway and missed it, and she threw her lifting straps at the bar and yelled, I quit. Do you remember what happened next?
Well, I think I stormed out.
Nearly.
So Richie says he yelled back, "If I see you walk out that door, you're never allowed in the gym again."
Oh, yes. Now I remember.
And she
God.
bawled her eyes out, but she didn't walk out the door. And he said he looks back on it now and it was wrong, and he apologized to you and the crew and said they sat down and agreed that they were going to change the way they do things. But he also said it was at that moment when he looked at you and thought, she's not a quitter. She might have these moments, but deep down inside, she's the kind of person that is relentless and just won't quit. Said that was a real standout trait with you, that you get challenges thrown at you and you hit brick walls, but you keep chipping away and you could find a way through.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
It sounds right, but it also comes down to the people in my lives that I choose to trust. And Richie is 100% one of those. The way he trained, the way he carried himself, his achievements alone, his determination. I trusted wholly in what he was programming for me. I had seen results through that. And so anything he said do, I was going to do, because I felt like I had surrounded myself with the best that we had here. And the mentality that we had in the gym at the time, it was full of people that were just so driven. He was driven. His wife is one of the most driven people I know. And we were feeding off each other. And I don't know, it was such a special environment because it was ruthless. But if he thought I could do more, I knew in my head he actually believed that. Yeah. He could see it. So I was going to give it a go. If he said, "Nah, that's enough," which there were times where he would say that. He's like, "Yeah, move on." I could see he knew where I was at for that day. And so there was absolute complete trust in him. He got me to where I got in the end. And that guy, him and his wife, two of my closest friends, they're really important people to me. And I love them.
I'm smiling because he did also share another story, which was how you taught him, or you helped him on his coaching journey, because he said he could tell when you walked into the gym what version of Lauren was there, whether it was the, "Yep, she's coachable today," or whether it was the, "I'm just going to let her lift and I'm not going to talk to her."
And he was so good at reading people like that.
Well, he said he learnt from you. That was you were the yardstick around honing that craft, that skill. Which maybe says a lot for how you carry yourself. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. If I'm on for the day, I am so on, he's right. Don't speak to me. I'm on a mission. Don't come near me. I've got my headphones on. I am absolutely getting at it. I don't really know how else to describe that. But like I said, I also I believe I'm learning so much from the people in that gym at the same time. The way that guy trained, it's such talent. And I'm feeding off that. I'm learning off that. And I have put myself in an environment where I have that ability to learn from the people around me. And they're all of incredible talent. And I'm trying to just gather as much of that as I can, because I'm new to the sport. I've got a very short time frame to make this get to that goal of qualification, which was very cutthroat. And I need all the help I can get.
Just on that qualification, can you share your actual qualification story?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Did he go into that?
I've got some lines in here, but it's not my story to tell.
Because
just to
one
learn
of
how
the
to turn
most
the sauna
brutal
on next
thing,
time.
yeah.
Carry on.
I don't. I have the thing about weightlifting is the competition. Something about competition for me, I just absolutely thrive in. I love it. Give me a competition, and I am just. It just gives me this feeling of. Oh, it's just a dopamine hit that I can't ever replicate in anything else. And I turn up to this competition, and I am naturally not a small person. Well, I don't think I'm a small person. I've always had muscle. I've always been I'm certainly
Jacked?
Never, I don't know if I've been jacked. You've had bigger, more jacked women in here than me. And God, I look at Lisa Carrington. Look at her. She is an amazing woman. And she's talked about her muscles. And I just look at them and I'm like, oh my God, what beauty. Like, incredible. But yeah, I've never been small. And I had to lose weight every time that we went to these big competitions, and it was ruthless. I look at it now and I think, oh man, again, I wish I knew more, because I didn't have the right advice in terms of diet and had some pretty poor methods of dropping weight. And I had to lose about 7 kilos in the space of about 7 weeks. So it was unhealthy, and I get to the biggest competition of my life and I'm overweight. I am not under the 60, what was I? 63 kilo mark. I get on the scales and I'm like, what? I'm like 0.2 over, 200 grams. So she's like, yeah, you got an hour. Go away and come back. I'm like, an hour to spit into a cup, to go to the toilet, which I've been, and because I'm not eating,
There's nothing there. Yeah.
I cannot. I'm like, okay, sauna time, and the other coach is there. Richie's not there yet. The other coach is there. He's like, wrap me in plastic. I'm in the fucking sauna. My friend Pippa is outside going, what can I do? And I'm like, and she passes me her keep cup and she's like, start spitting. And I'm like, oh my God, my throat's dry. Like, I am so hungry. I'm dehydrated, because dehydration was part of the dropping weight. And the sauna's not working. It's not on. And I'm begging people. I'm like, turn the sauna on. I am not hot. Get it going. And no one figures it out. And I go back and I say to the woman, and they'd be in a lot of trouble if they were holding an international competition where those facilities weren't working. Mm. So I get on the scale and I say to her, the sauna is not working. Something's wrong with it. No one's figured out how to turn it on. And she looks at me and there's always 2 people in the weight room. She's like, oh, let me just move the scales a minute. Moves them well over to the corner. Stands between me and the chaperone woman watching. I jump on the scale. It's still 62.1. And she's like, yep, 62. Good to go. And I'm like, cool. I run out of there and I'm like, do I tell? Like, what the hell? What the hell just happened? Yeah. Here I have qualified. I'm yet to qualify. Here I am in an international competition and I'm not underweight. Yeah. But she knew she was screwed. The sauna wasn't working. So I'm like, okay, I'm not telling anyone that. And there I am, like, shoving my face with full food. Like, I am just jam-packing as much food in as possible. And Richie turns up in the car. I see his face. He's like, no. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. He's like, you've saunaed. And I'm like, yeah, I was overweight. Sorry, mate. And he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. First competition in my whole life. And I'd done that for over 2 years now, like, up and down weight. And he's like, how did this happen on the most important competition of your life? And I was like, I don't know.
Sorry, Richard.
And then?
We get it.
On
what?
The last lift?
Oh my God. What happened? Let me think. I snatched my heart out that day. I think I snatched a PB. Well over, I think. 81? I got 81 kilos on the bar and I nailed it. And that lift, my friend Pippa videoed it. The biggest thing for me watching back on that video was his reaction. Richie's reaction in the background. I could see him. And he's usually one that just follows the weight up and he moves. And when I stick it, he's like, yes. I could just see him celebrating. And yeah, it was just the feeling of that. It was so incredible. So I went back and I remember him saying to me, he's like, we've got to make this a sure thing now. Like the second clean and jerk I nailed and I knew I'd met the target by then. Third attempt, he was like, we've just got to make this a sure thing that you are going. I'm going to put this weight on and you're going to get it. And I didn't get it. But I met the standard. It wasn't a given that they were going to select me. That was just part of the criteria, that I hit that mark and that I could show I could make top 8 at the Com Games. So that was still another criteria I had to make. But that was great that time. Competing with those guys was awesome.
Yeah.
Such
cool.
a wild time to think back on that I did that.
You did it.
Yeah.
Great thing on the CV. I'm going to take us back into family in Australia. And
before you do that, are there parallels between that hardcore training and the journey that you're in now? Like really pushing yourself to those extremes? Because you made a reference earlier after the initial diagnosis where you were saying, give me radiation, give me chemo, give me everything. I can take it. I can do it.
I think about that now. I was lucky that my treatment was far less than some of the effects that people receive from chemo and radiation. I don't know. The thing that I thought about most about my mentality with sport and how it would translate into treatment and cancer and that journey, I remember meeting Richie, and he came over before I left for Australia and said, you've gone through hard things in your life. You've done really hard things. Like, this is all just part of it. This is another test, and you, by all means, have the skills to navigate this. The difference between sport, and this is the importance, I think, is when it comes to mental health, is that notion that you have to push through, that perseverance, digging deep, like, I'm not sure if that is the best approach with sport. And I think about this often, is that if I'm if I'm lacking in an area of my skill, I can analyze that and say, okay, I'm going to dedicate X amount of hours to be better at that. Cancer and treatment and having something that you're in total lack of control of, there's nothing you can fix. There's nothing you can do better in terms of working harder on to make sure that treatment works. There's nothing. I'm just in full, give it to me. All I can do is succumb to this experience and do my best to work through it, not persevere, not push too hard, and ask for help when I need it, because it's very different, sport and cancer, like particularly the mental health. I want to stress the fact that you don't need to push through by yourself, that you need to ask for help.
I think this is a good place to introduce Dan. And I had a really cool conversation with him a few days ago.
I tried to get out of him what he'd said. He's like, this is like Christmas. Like, you're asking me what presents you've got. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. And we talked about you, but I also said, and I said, this is a really strange and intimate conversation to have with a stranger who you've never met over the phone, but like, how are you?
He said that you asked that. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. And he talked a lot about your relationship and the work you've done on it and how it might be interesting to talk about. And he gave us a tip to ask about the Frisbee incident.
Oh my gosh.
Which might be a good way of getting into it.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it.
To give some context about our relationship, and I again wish this was talked about more. In marriage, in relationships, there is so much that goes on where your marriage and your relationship shifts. And for us, it was, we got married, I got pregnant, we moved countries, I got pregnant again, we bought a house, like 5 huge life events.
Went to the Commonwealth Games.
Oh, well, yeah, went to the Com Games.
That's quite a big one.
Yeah. 5 huge events that in some cases your marriage can become you're just trotting along, you know? You're not bad nor good, but you're not purposely working on some of the things that probably need working on. And so to voice, I guess, to people that we see a counsellor, a marriage counsellor, a psychologist. Well, yeah, I don't think she's a psychologist, but we see someone that has helped us in ways that I wish we had done it sooner. And I actually wish everyone I knew or know was doing it, because I now, I go on to that later. But anyway, during the treatment, we had got into such a dark space, me particularly, and I will say that I felt so much guilt that I had caused the stress on my family, that we both weren't working. We had moved country. Finances were tough. We were relying, I guess, on, Dan's a pretty proud guy. He had to ask his parents to help us out. A big thing for, I think, a lot of mouths. Yeah. And, finance are dwindling. I'm now in a position where I can see stress in him. Not that he's showing it in a way that's like, trying to make me nervous or anything, but I can see stress in him. My kids are asking when to go home. I'm now like, oh my God, this is just going to be easier if I do this by myself. I need to now push everyone I know away. And it's been easier because we were in Australia, no one else around me but my direct family. It's going to be easier if I push Dan away, so that if something bad happens, there's no real strange connection, and that if I die, he's good to go because we weren't close. Strange mentality.
Yeah.
I know that's really hard to maybe understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just now pushing all my loved ones. Like, don't come near me because I've caused this pain on you, and I want to do it now by myself because I want you to now no longer have any more pain. And we got to a point, I remember this conversation sitting on the couch going, I can't do this anymore. Like, and he's, for the first time, like, he's stood by me my whole life, seen every version of Lauren. And I remember him saying, I don't know how we can do this anymore because we just basically weren't even talking. Like, I was unwell a lot. I was in bed a lot. There were times where I couldn't get out of bed. And that was the first time where I was like, oh my God, he's not willing to fight. Like, this is mutual. I just didn't expect that of him. But anyway, a couple of days passed and he came to me and said, I found this woman that I just want to give us one last shot. Like, can we go and see this woman and talk about what we're going through and just see what happens? And he said, this is the website. And her website was Raising Legends. And I was like, that's cool. Like, what psychologist or counsellor do you look at on a website and go, oh, I want to try that? Yeah. Like, it's so rare. Like, they're all so black and white and I'm a psychologist and this is what I do. But she's like, nah, beach walks. Come walk with me along the beach. She looked, like someone that I would want to hang out with. Not that appearance is what you're looking for, but we went and gave that a go, and it was the best thing I've done in my entire life. She has changed our life and our relationship for the better, and we have had some interesting conversations. And the Frisbee came up. I remember oh God, I don't know if I'm going to tell this story right, but sometimes you get stuck in the nitty-gritty of things that just do not matter. And we were out, like, of all things going on, I'm going through cancer and I'm going to bring up a story about the fact that Dan threw a Frisbee and it hit me and he didn't say anything. He didn't come over and say, hey, you okay? And I brought this up to this counsellor and she's just looking at me going, and she laughed. She's like, I know this is important to you that he didn't say okay, and maybe you should have said okay. But she's like, is this really the issues that we're talking about? I'm like, true, But now it just, I don't know. The Frisbee comes up a lot now, and when we give each other shit, I'm like, this is another fucking Frisbee moment. I have to bring this up with Rochelle because, and he's like, okay, sorry. No, but I don't know, like, the ability for us to say, we need help as a couple, because at the end of the day, I've I want to be the best version of me for him, and I want him to be giving that to me as well. If one of us are off, or if we're not doing that, then I'm like, what's the point? Like, I want to have an amazing relationship. I want to love and laugh and make mistakes, and that's the biggest thing. We're by no means perfect now. Like, we are still making mistakes, even recently. And there's this taboo of, like, I feel, like, if you're in a relationship and you need help, like, something must be seriously wrong. Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
You need marriage counselling? What? What's wrong? What's wrong with you?
How come you can't figure this out for yourselves? Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes you can't figure it out because you're stuck in it, and you need a third person to say, hey, that Frisbee moment, that's not it. Like, that is not the worst thing going on for you right now. Let's dig deeper and figure out what it is, and figure out how you guys can move forward together as a team, because we are very different people, me and Dan, like, so different. And in good ways.
Yeah.
Initially I thought it was bad, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks about things completely different. So, I'm very emotionally driven. He's not. It's very, like, ducks in a row. Give me all the information so I can make the decision. I'm like, let's just wing it. Let's just go.
I think a lot of people will take a lot from that advice.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I wish more people talked about the struggles in their relationship. I want deep connection with people now, and because of what I've been through and because of the things I've sought out to help me, and I want to connect with people on a deeper level, but it's really hard to find that. How do you connect with people? Like, how do you have those conversations? And I can see, looking around my friends, and I can see what relationships are working well and what are just sort of plodding along. But it's hard to bring, I don't want to, it's other people's business, but you can see it.
Start a podcast and then just invite people on, and then you get some deep and meaningful areas.
Oh, yeah.
But that the struggle that you've been through or going through, that's really honed that introspection. I keep coming back to introspection, or like your set of values. Is that a fair
100%
assumption?
Yeah, my values have shifted completely, and they've become more known to me through what I've been through, and I'm definitely better for it, knowing now what, like, pre-cancer, very much just going about my life, very outwardly reaching for things to do, hanging out, just outwardly reaching with my friends, and very much relying on all the things that are going on outside of my immediate life. Whereas now I'm like, I'll go anywhere in the world as long as I'm with Dan and my kids. Like, I don't need to be doing all of those things, buying those things, having the best house. Like, it's easy for me to make decisions now that are life-changing so long as I'm with my family. I don't need anything else. Struggle. I wonder how that comes across, but
I think, like, you're obviously approaching life from a very different perspective given the circumstances that you've been through. As someone sitting out on the other side, it shouldn't take your mortality,
I know,
to come to some of the realizations that you're coming to.
I know, and I'm like, how do I? It's very much a case of, I don't want to tell other people. I'm very aware of, like, I can't tell you how to go and find these deeper meanings to your life and making sure that you're living your life to your values. And what are your values? And I'm very aware of that, because I think when I think back about my previous life, and how majority people are living their lives because they haven't been through ground shaking change. It's easy to initially want to scream it to the rooftops of, like, you are living a life of, I don't know, like, I just want, it's hard to explain that to people that aren't in it. And perspective, right? Like sometimes it only comes when the ground has shaken so violently that you're like, oh my God. Yeah.
I like to think these low-key legend episodes are all perspective shifters. That's why we get people on, because it will shape the audience's perspective. And I love them because a lot of the time we have these sort of high-profile guests and we kind of know their story before they come on. And our job is to sort of provide the best version of it for our audience. With you, we're learning about your story on the fly. And even I didn't really know like where you're at present day until we've sat down, until you said it before. But I wanted to ask about that. Like how, sitting here with us now, do you think of yourself? Are you sick? Are you okay?
I think of myself still being very much in it. And I keep that to myself because of what people see of me on the outside.
I wanted to make that point earlier.
Yeah, like I don't look sick.
No.
I've never looked sick. I've walked into scans and oncologists and I've had people look at me going, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. And because there are really sick people in these places. So I've almost kept a lot of my journey to myself because, again, like when we came back from Australia, the comments I was getting were like, wow, you look amazing. And I'm like, oh man, I don't feel amazing. So how can I now have that conversation? I can't tell that person that actually I'm struggling big time. And so still to this day, I'm learning the best way to do that. And I think this might not be the right way, but it's leaning on people that you know have capacity and the ability to listen and be with you when you sit down and say, oh man, I'm struggling. I am not feeling great. So yeah, at the moment, I feel like I'm still in it because I'm only a year out. And this whole thing was explained to me very clearly at the start that it's a long road. And because the treatment's still so new, they haven't been able to actually test beyond 5 years about the likelihood of people surviving for, till the end of a normal life period. So when she says to me, another 2 years of monitoring, it's every 6 months I'm checked. And at the end of that 2 years, we've got a likely chance of recurrence at 2%. And she talks about it being likely, cancer-free at 5 years. And now it's at 5 years and not beyond yet because the treatment's new and nothing's. But she talks about it being as I'm likely to be cancer-free following the 2-year checkup. So I need to get to, in my mind, it's like a race, right? It's still like I'm in that competition of like, not until I reach that 2-year point am I going to celebrate to the point where I'm like, yeah, I made it.
Yeah. You made a point before about you give me a competition and I thrive. And I did wonder whether you view this cancer journey as a competition.
I do, in terms of it being like, I'm not celebrating. I'm not telling people now about...
He's still sitting in the sauna spitting into a cup.
I do like a sauna now. I didn't, but I keep it to myself a lot, and I still find I'm still learning how to manage my mental health. That doesn't go away, I don't find, once it hits you.
Do you still have bad days?
100%, and bad periods more than most, particularly after the scans. I feel like I go in this downer of I'm still so in it because I'm not out. I'm still in that phase of checking. I can't celebrate. I can't move on with my life. It feels that way.
And does your external group almost mini fist pump every time you get a clear scan? Or
I'm bad because I don't tell them anymore.
Right.
I just feel like it's got to a point now where I'm just like, I don't feel like telling everyone. Even though I'm on a podcast telling how many people.
There's a few.
2.
Yeah, 2 people. I don't know. I just keep it to myself, even my husband sometimes.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, have you had your results? Oh, yeah, I had them yesterday.
Yeah, we're all good.
He's like, oh, sweet, good. And I'm like, yeah. But I don't like to celebrate it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not in that headspace of like, yeah, 12 months post-cancer treatment. I'm still good.
And what's the messaging with the kids are 7 and 5 now? How do you bring them along with what's going on?
I've only just started to tell my daughter about the reasons why we came last time. And that's probably because she's been upset about why we've moved. And I've sort of said to her, look, it's actually good for mum to be here because mum's got her doctors here. And she's like, what doctors? And I'm like, well, when we came last, mum wasn't very well and mum's doing pretty well now, but she still needs checkups. And immediately, 7-year-old, halfway through that conversation, she's like checked out. She didn't even listen. But with sunscreen and things like that, I don't know what it's like getting sunscreen on your kids. But
Yeah,
I
it's
actually explained to her now, I'm like, if you don't wear sunscreen, you could get sick and it can be very serious. And, sort of telling her that I had to take medication for 12 months and it wasn't fun. She saw how unfun it was,
Yeah, because it was really unfun, right?
Yeah. To have your kids come to your bedside and be like, Mum, can you get out of bed today? And I'm like, no, I can't. Mum can't get out of bed today. A lot of the time because of my mental health. Sometimes because of fevers and things like that, but probably more so because of my mental health. Mum couldn't get out of bed. And Dan sort of touched on it in the past about whether or not people are ready to hear how bad it got for us over there. Because we were over there and no one could see it, how do you come back and describe to people that how do you have the conversation with people that your wife, or how do I tell my friends that I was at a point of contemplating my life and whether it was worth being. Yeah. And I still remember the conversation being had with our psychologist at the time because Dan needed a plan of attack when he saw me in that dark hole of what to do because he didn't know what to do. And I can't imagine the pain that caused him and the stress that caused him because I felt like he was under such stress of having to make sure that I was okay, that I wasn't going to do something ridiculous. And that must have caused absolute pain and stress for him.
There's no doubt that would have, but the power in sharing that potentially protects another couple, another family, another person from going through that. And with that in mind, do you feel a sense of responsibility to talk about those things?
I've struggled with that because I don't know how to tell it. I have explained to some people in the past that my mental health was so bad that I did have thoughts at some point of not wanting to be around anymore. But it's almost not truly understood unless I always feel this, that these people that I'm telling, it's not truly understood unless you're in it. Like you can't understand unless you are so in it that, I don't know, I sometimes feel like it's sort of just like, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that. And then the conversation moves on. It's just people aren't willing to talk about it deeply. So I think I have this desire to, and we talk about sports and the mentality, but this desire to tell people that no one's immune, that you can have these issues of mental health issues despite the sometimes things you've done in your life that have required pure guts and determination, just that stoic mentality. And, but, you know, some things can just rock you to the core and you are doing your best, but sometimes it just becomes very hard. And I still don't believe we talk about mental health enough. I don't think we talk about it very deeply. It's still very surface level, like, especially as Kiwis, you know. How you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm great. I'm always good. You know, it's always that. I never answer that question any other way than, yeah, I'm great. Like I never, I don't know. It's strange. So I think like you realise that, you know, who are the people around your table that you're willing to share that with? But also you become very aware of what other people need when they're going through it. And that's what I've realised. I've now made friends with people that I connect on a deeper level with, and I'm a better listener, and I can now, knowing what I would need in that situation, I try to give that to them. But I wish I could help others.
I think you are. I think you are doing that. When did you adopt that mantra, they're just doing their best? I've heard you've dropped it a few times.
I remember talking to my psychologist about this woman that had gave me the initial diagnosis. I was like, I want to pull her up. I want to get her looked at, and
Yeah.
I want to go down the path of like, you know, that was not okay, the way she handled that situation. I didn't receive mental health care following that appointment, and my doctor just sat there with me for a minute, and she said, you know, we need to consider the stress that involves. But, you know, we also need to talk about the fact that she didn't wake up that morning and say, I'm going to deal this blow to this person and, you know, ruin her life. Like, these people aren't in those positions to do that. And I just sat back for a minute and thought, fuck, no one's doing that. No one's waking up in the morning going, I'm going to make Lauren's life hell. I don't, you know. So we sort of sat there for a minute, and she mentioned to me, she's like, you know, it's the same with generations of change and, you know, parents and new parents. You know, we're all doing our best and trying to do better. And she said it's the same with, you know, people in the hospital. They are doing the best with the tools they've got. And I thought that was such a good description of that space, because I can't expect doctors to always get it right, to know everything, which then comes back to, if you're in this space, you 100% need to be your own health advocate. Like, there are people that walk away from those appointments, will never question it, will go down the road of, yeah, I've been dealt this blow and now there's nothing for me and I'm not going to get a second opinion. I'm not going to get a third opinion. But it's so important to be your own health advocate, and people get it wrong, to no fault of their own. They're doing their best, and yeah, it's up to you to figure out the right path. I don't know.
Man, it's been such a cool ride. We've been going sort of an hour and a half. We got you on to share the story of battling through adversity and what you've been through and what you're currently going through, but not really knowing, like I said before, where you're at currently. But I feel like we've got the best version of Lauren without having known you before.
Oh, thank you.
You seem like you're in such a wise, like good, grounded space. You look healthy. Like you're so good. Is this the best version of Lauren?
No. I find that an interesting one, and I've talked about that before. The version that you're seeing, I'm not faking this or pretending to be someone else. I am 100% being me right now, but there is a mental health battle happening in the background that I am definitely dealing with, or doing my best to. And I don't show that. It's hard to show it. No one wants to be around, I don't know, like, how do you show it? And you've talked about, you've had your own struggles. I describe it to my husband as being, when I'm in that dark hole of, I have no words to describe what I'm feeling. And he'll ask me, are you okay? What's going on? Tell me, I'm here. I'm here for you. And I never have anything to say, but it grinds me, because I'm like, I feel not myself. And I am doing my best to just do one foot in front of the other, day to day. Like, don't let this headspace stop you from doing things. It's important to keep going, because otherwise, you know, it's the worst case scenario, you're stuck in bed not wanting to get out of bed, right? So I'm still figuring out, and my husband knows that obviously I'm not feeling 100%. I don't know if it's the change that we've been through. I've obviously just had my scan. I talked about the fact that after that I go into a downer, and it happens. It has been happening every 3 months, because the scans are every 3 months. So I'm just not feeling 100%. But people see me as, you know, and when I'm in things, I'm giving energy and life to that. But I guess it's when you're alone and you're, you know, in your own space and got time to think, that you start to think, okay, something's not quite right in my head right now. And you start to think, I'm still not great at it, even though I feel like we've come a long way. I'm still not great at figuring out when to deal with it. Like, when I notice something's shifted, when do I say, hey, I need a hand right now? A lot of the time I take that mentality of just grit through that and just keep going, and it'll go. And it does go. I know that it goes. But sometimes it just get to the end of it, or close to the end of, I know sort of how long these things last, and I'm like, I'm sick of this. And I'm at my worst then. I'm at my worst towards the end of it, because it's just gone on for a bit too long, and I haven't dealt with it. Yeah. I haven't communicated probably that I'm not feeling great. And I think the hard thing that I've talked about this with my husband, Dan, like, he struggles too, because he'll ask what's wrong. He can 100% know when I'm not right. And he'll just say, talk to me. And I feel like it's we go around in circles and we talk about it all the time. Like, I don't know what to say to you. And it's hard for him. And he's been through his own mental health battles a long time ago. And I did the same thing to him. What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. I'm a fixer. I want to fix this. You need to do this, that, and that. He doesn't go to that extent, but he's still asking. And I'm like, mate, I don't know. I just feel rubbish. Yeah. But 100% better to what I was at. Obviously, when I was in treatment, we were here, in Australia last time. Like, I'm not at that point. But I wonder if I'll ever feel... do you?
Yeah, I think for me, there's always a cloud not far away.
100%.
And things can be on the outside seeming to be going great guns and everything's firing on all cylinders, but there's still, I don't know whether I'm hardwired for that, but for me, it's something's going to go wrong sooner or later. And and it's almost like you're bracing yourself to get into that funk again. And you're like, come on, something shit happen.
Yes.
Something shit happen. And I can't even begin to compare with your situation, but I imagine with your checkups on board, I don't know whether this is that's the cloud for you, right? Is kind of hovering over, and then almost when it passes, it's kind of like, oh, what am I going to do with all this stored up angst? I have got nowhere to go with it, so it's just going to manifest itself when there's no reason to.
Yep, 100% that.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happens. And I'm still in that.
I just made that up.
And so good,
mate.
You should be on my team.
Hey, I'm available. Cool. I'd love to be part of that team.
What's it been like being here, sharing your story with two strangers for 90 minutes?
It's actually felt quite freeing. I'm sharing this stuff that I probably haven't shared with anyone. And I've wanted to get this off my chest. I've shared a bit with my brother Hugh, and he's very open to talking about a lot of things now. And I feel like he's been through his own life changes, not to the extent of mine, but he's just more aware. And we've talked about it before I left for Australia, like sort of, the changes I've been through and some of that stuff. And I felt like I just sort of a bit of a weight's lifted. Like, people might look at me now and think, I don't know, like, what we see on the outside isn't actually always the case. And maybe I should ask that person, hey, how you going? Truly, how are you feeling? Sit down on the couch. Let's have a cup of coffee. And let's chat. I've loved getting my story out there. And like I said, like after going through what I've been through, I just want to connect so deeply with people, and it's hard to find that. So to share an honest story that might hit home for someone else, cool. I love that.
It absolutely will. This has been so cool. So meaningful conversations is just, I don't know. We've found ourselves in this space where we get to have epic chats like this. I had the last thing is what is the message you want to send to others, but I feel like we've covered it a bit. But is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you want to say? I probably don't want to go there because it's hard, like I said in the past, it's hard to go through these life changes and then want other people to just live life, to evaluate what's important to them and just live a purposeful life. And I don't know how to get that out there. I don't know how to describe that. Like, I don't know. You have. You've got it out there. Yeah. Like people.
How in a way that resonates, I guess. Like I have, we go through this change, we come back, we look at our lives and going, is this it? Is this our life now? Is this what we want from our life? So we have sat down and detailed what we want from our life moving forward. Aside from cancer and everything else, we've got these things that we want to live by. How do we get that? Okay, we want to move. We want to try something different. If it works out, cool. If it doesn't, sweet. Like, we'll just try something else. That ability to adapt now, to shift, to make changes in our life. It's so easy for us because we've been through such hard times that the ability to pack up and leave or change our lives is just easy because it's not having a house, having things, it's just not that important to us. So I swear when I told people we were leaving Muriwai to move back to Australia, that some of them were just like, well, why would you do that? And I'm like, just want to try something else. I want to live life without having to question, what if I'd done that? Like, but I don't think that resonates with people unless they're going through shit.
Yeah.
I don't think it really hits home unless you've been through something really hard. Because otherwise you're just going along. It's the same with the counselling and all of that. Like, people aren't going to do it until they get there, So, I don't know. I don't know what the message is, sorry, but...
No, you don't have... That, I mean, this whole episode has been the message, to be honest. And there are people listening. We get feedback all the time of how they are at a point in their journey where they're struggling, and hearing this or hearing what you've been through and your mindset and the purposeful conversations and reaching out and all of these things we've talked about have helped them so much. It's been really, really valuable. Shay, is there anything else before we start wrapping up?
No, nothing specific. I think we've got the stories that we wanted to hear. We've heard the ups and we've heard the downs, and we've heard the truth, your truth. And I think I knew coming into this episode that it was going to be a perspective changer. You used that term before. And I was driving up and I was thinking, oh God, this is going to be heavy themes. And it has been heavy themes, but it's been really uplifting at the same time. And I don't mean to make light of your struggle, because I know your struggle has been incredible, but fuck, every now and again, you probably just need someone to walk into your life and cut the shit and tell you, start fucking living.
Yes.
Start living, because you never know when it's going to be taken away from you.
I agree, 100%. None of us are guaranteed another day or next year, and there are bad things that will happen to all of us in our life, regardless of it's directly you or maybe it's your family or your friends. Something bad is going to happen in your life, And we all figure out how to move through that. But for me, there have been so many lessons for me as a person, and I am so different, I think, to what I was in the past. But also for me and my husband as a relationship. But I think I said to him the other day, if anything with this mental health issue and the ability to talk about it, there has to be a greater purpose. And for me, it's not only to get my message out there and let people know that this can happen, like I said, to anyone, but if anything, for my kids, like to my kids to listen back and go, oh man, Mum went through that. I want, and if that ever happens to them, that they can talk about it, and that there is a need to talk about it, and that we need to figure out how we can best be there for them if it happens. Because let's be honest, like, social media and everything these days, like, and what effects that is having on our children, it's a bit of a concern, at least to me. And I just want to be able to, teach my kids that it's okay to feel emotions. I wasn't taught that as a child. You didn't cry. You cried, you're a pussy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to show my kids that it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to not know what to do sometimes. And I will just sit there with you, and sometimes we can cry about it together. Sometimes I'll just be there while you're crying, and we can just be. And that's okay to feel that. Sometimes we don't know how to fix it, but I think, emotions are so important. Connecting on that level, and the ability to talk about it is so hard for a lot of people. But now I feel like it's all I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, it's so important.
Being real.
Yeah.
Genuine connection.
Yeah.
It's everything, eh?
Yes.
Lauren Ray, thank you so much. It's been epic. Thank you so much.
I can't believe I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I hope my voice sounds okay at the end.
Sounds great. We've loved it.
Feel free to change it.
Yeah. Let's stay in touch, eh?
Okay. Cheers, mate. Thanks.